There's something uniquely terrifying about being home alone. The silence becomes louder. Every creak of the floorboard sounds intentional. Every shadow in your peripheral vision feels like it's watching you. And in those moments, when it's just you and the four walls around you, you're at your most vulnerable. The stories you're about to hear are real. They were submitted by viewers who experienced something that changed how they see their own homes forever. These aren't stories about ghosts or demons. These are about real people, strangers who knew exactly when you were alone, who watched from places you'd never think to look, who waited for the perfect moment when no one else could hear you scream. If you're home alone right now, you might want to check your locks, because after hearing these stories, you'll never feel quite as safe again. Let's begin. My name is Jessica, and this happened to me in the summer of 2022. I was 24, living in a small two-story rental house in suburban Michigan. It was my first time living completely alone. No roommates, no family, just me. I worked as a dental hygienist, usually got home around 6 in the evening. The neighborhood was quiet, mostly young families and retirees. I felt safe there. It was a Tuesday night in July. I remember because I just started watching a new series on Netflix and planned to binge it all night. My boyfriend was out of town for work, so I had the place to myself. I'd picked up Thai food on the way home, changed into comfortable clothes, and settled onto the couch with my dinner. The sun was setting, casting that orange glow through the living room windows. I ate, scrolled through my phone, hit play on the show. Everything was normal. Around 9 o'clock, I paused the TV to get some water from the kitchen. The house was quiet, except for the hum of the refrigerator and the central air conditioning. As I was filling my glass at the sink, I heard it. Footsteps. Above me. Upstairs. I froze. The water overflowing in my glass. My eyes moved to the ceiling. The sound was distinct. Slow, deliberate footsteps moving across the upstairs hallway. From the spare bedroom toward my bedroom, my heart started pounding. I lived alone. No one else had keys except my boyfriend, and he was in Denver. I turned off the water, set the glass down carefully, and listened. Silence. Maybe I'd imagined it. Old houses settle, make noises. I'd been living there for 3 months and heard weird sounds before. I tried to rationalize it, but then I heard it again. 3 more steps. Slow, heavy, definitely footsteps. Someone was upstairs. My phone was on the couch in the living room. I moved toward it quickly, my hands shaking. I grabbed it and pulled up 911, my thumb hovering over the call button. I stood at the bottom of the staircase, staring up into the darkness of the second floor. I hadn't turned the upstairs lights on when I got home. I never went up there until bedtime. "Hello?" My voice came out weak, trembling. "Is someone up there?" No answer, but I heard movement. A soft creaking, like someone shifting their weight on the floorboards. That's when every survival instinct in my body screamed at me to get out. Don't investigate. Don't go upstairs. Get out of the house. I ran to the front door, fumbled with the deadbolt, and burst outside onto the porch. The evening air hit my face, warm and thick. I ran to my car in the driveway, got in, locked the doors, and called 911. The operator answered immediately. I told her everything, the footsteps, the sounds, someone in my house. She stayed on the line with me, dispatched officers to my address. 2 police cars arrived within 6 minutes, 3 officers. They approached the house with flashlights and weapons drawn. I stayed in my car, watching, my whole body trembling. They went inside. I could see their flashlight beams moving through the windows, sweeping through the living room, the kitchen, then upstairs. They were in there for what felt like forever. Finally, one of the officers came back outside and walked over to my car. I rolled down the window. "Ma'am, we've checked every room, every closet, under all the beds. There's no one in the house." "But I heard footsteps," I insisted. "Someone was walking around upstairs." "We found no signs of forced entry. All your windows are locked from the inside. The back door is secure. Are you sure about what you heard?" I felt a wave of embarrassment wash over me. Maybe I had imagined it. Maybe it was just the house settling. I don't know. I was sure I heard something. The officer was kind, told me it happens. Old houses make noise. Stress and living alone can make you jumpy. He suggested I call someone to stay with me for the night, just for peace of mind. I called my sister. She drove over and stayed with me. I felt stupid, paranoid. We even laughed about it a little, and I started to feel better. I went to bed that night with my sister on the couch downstairs. I lay there in the darkness of my bedroom, staring at the ceiling, trying to convince myself it was nothing. The next morning, my sister left for work early. I got ready for my shift, tried to shake off the weird feeling from the night before. Before leaving, I went into the spare bedroom upstairs to grab a box of dental supplies I'd stored in the closet. I opened the closet door and reached for the box on the top shelf. That's when I saw it. On the floor of the closet, in the back corner, was a blanket. It was bunched up, like someone had been lying on it, and next to it was a half-eaten granola bar and a water bottle, my water bottle, the one that had gone missing from my fridge 2 weeks ago. I backed out of the closet slowly, my breath catching in my throat. I called the police again. This time, they took it seriously. They came back, took photos, collected the items as evidence. They dusted for prints.
The detective told me what I already knew, but didn't want to accept. Someone had been living in my house, hiding in that closet, probably for weeks. They checked the attic access in the spare bedroom ceiling. The panel had been moved recently. You could see the dust disturbed around the edges. Whoever it was had likely been going in and out through there, accessing the crawl space that ran above the entire second floor. They never found out who it was. No prints matched anyone in the system. No witnesses, no suspects. I moved out 2 days later, broke my lease, stayed with my parents until I found a new place. But here's the thing that still keeps me up at night. The detective said, based on the evidence, the blanket, the food wrappers they found in the attic, the way everything was positioned, whoever was living there had been watching me. There were small holes drilled in the ceiling above my bedroom, tiny, almost invisible unless you knew where to look. Someone had been watching me sleep for weeks, and when I heard those footsteps that night, when the police came and didn't find anyone, the detective thinks whoever it was heard me call 911. They escaped through the attic, out a vent on the side of the house, before the police arrived. They were in the house the entire time the police were searching, and they're still out there. My name is Cameron. I was 17 when this happened, in the fall of 2020. It was a Friday night in October. My parents had gone to my aunt's house for the weekend, about 2 hours away. They'd asked if I wanted to come, but I had a test to study for and honestly just wanted the house to myself for once. They left around 4 in the afternoon, standard parent stuff. Be safe, don't have people over, call if you need anything. I nodded through it all, just wanting them to leave so I could relax. I ordered a pizza, played video games, the usual. It started getting dark around 7. I was in the living room, lights on, curtains open. Our house sat on a corner lot, kind of isolated, with woods behind us and the nearest neighbor about 100 feet away. Around 9:30, I got a text from my friend Derek. Yo, you still studying or you want to play COD? I texted back, yeah, give me like 30 minutes, finishing this chapter. I was lying on the couch, textbook open in front of me, but not really reading it. I picked up my phone to scroll through Instagram. That's when I got a text from an unknown number. No words, just a photo. I opened it. My blood went cold. It was a picture of me, lying on the couch, right now. From outside the living room window, I could see myself in the photo, my face, the textbook in front of me, the lamp on beside me. The angle was from outside, taken through the window I was sitting next to. My heart exploded in my chest. I shot up from the couch, nearly dropping my phone. I ran to the window and looked out into the darkness. The streetlight at the corner cast a weak yellow glow, but most of the yard was shadows. I couldn't see anyone. I yanked the curtains shut and backed away from the window, my hands shaking. Another text came through. Wave if you can see me. Panic flooded my system. I ran through the house, closing every curtain, checking every lock. The front door, locked. Back door, locked. All the windows on the first floor, locked. I called 911. The dispatcher answered and I could barely get the words out. Someone was outside my house taking pictures of me, sending me texts. Are you in danger right now? Are they trying to get inside? I don't know. I don't know where they are. Stay on the line with me. Officers are on the way. Do not go outside. Stay inside. Go to a room with no windows and lock the door. I ran upstairs to the bathroom, the only room with no windows. I locked the door, sat on the floor with my back against the tub, the phone pressed to my ear. They're coming, Cameron. They'll be there in a few minutes. Just stay where you are. I heard a sound downstairs, a soft thud, like something hitting the side of the house. I heard something. I whispered into the phone. It's okay. Stay calm. Don't leave the bathroom. My phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number. I didn't want to look, but I had to. It was another photo. This one was of the back door, taken from the backyard. The photo was close, like whoever took it was standing right next to the door, their camera aimed at the lock. The message underneath read, "You locked the door. Smart." Tears were streaming down my face now. I was shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. Then I heard sirens. Distant at first, then closer, then right outside. The dispatcher said, "Officers are there, Cameron. They're going to clear the property. Stay where you are until they come get you." I waited. Every second felt like an hour. Finally, I heard heavy footsteps on the stairs.
Then a knock on the bathroom door. "Cameron, it's Officer Brennan. You're safe. You can come out." I opened the door. 2 officers were standing there. One of them, a younger guy, gave me a reassuring nod. "We've checked the perimeter. Whoever was out there is gone now." They took my statement, looked at the photos on my phone. They checked the yard with flashlights, walked around the entire property. They found footprints in the dirt outside the living room window and near the back door. Boot prints, size 11 or 12, but no sign of whoever it was. They stayed with me until my parents got home, driving back immediately after I called them. I slept in their room that night, too terrified to be alone. The police traced the phone number the texts came from. It was a burner phone, bought with cash at a convenience store 3 towns over. No way to track who bought it. They never caught the person. But here's the part that makes my skin crawl. A week later, I got another text. Different number, another photo. This time, it was a picture of my house, taken during the day. My mom's car was in the driveway. The timestamp in the corner of the photo showed it was taken the day after the police report. The message said, "You told on me." I showed my parents. We filed another report. The police increased patrols in our neighborhood, but the texts didn't stop. Over the next 2 months, I got 11 more photos, different angles of the house, my car in the school parking lot, the route I walked to get coffee on weekends. Then, just as suddenly as they started, they stopped. No more texts, no more photos. That was 3 years ago. I'm in college now, living in a different state. But last month, I got a text from an unknown number. No words, just a photo. It was a picture of my dorm building, taken at night from across the street. I changed my number the next day. I don't know if they'll find me again. My name is Sarah. I'm 31 now, but this happened when I was 28, in the winter of 2019. I just moved into a new apartment after a bad breakup. It was a small 1-bedroom on the 3rd floor of an older building in Portland, Oregon. The rent was affordable, the neighborhood was decent. It seemed fine. The first few weeks were uneventful. I worked from home as a freelance graphic designer, so I spent a lot of time in the apartment. I liked the quiet, but then the knocking started. It was on a Thursday night, mid-January. I was working late, sitting at my desk in the living room. It was around 2 a.m. I was deep into a project, headphones on, music playing. I took my headphones off to stretch, and that's when I heard it. 3 knocks on my front door. Slow, deliberate, knock, knock, knock. I looked at the clock. 2:14 a.m. I walked to the door quietly, looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty, just the dim emergency lighting and the worn carpet. I didn't open the door. I stood there, watching, waiting, nothing. I went back to work.
Figured it was a drunk neighbor at the wrong door. The next night, it happened again. 2:14 a.m., 3 knocks. I jumped up from the couch where I'd been watching TV, ran to the door, and looked through the peephole. Empty hallway. This time, I opened the door. I stepped out into the hallway, looked both ways. No one. The stairwell door at the end of the hall was closed. The elevator across from me was silent, not moving. I went back inside, locked the door, and tried to shake it off, but it kept happening every single night. 2:14 a.m., 3 knocks. I'd check the peephole, nothing. I'd open the door, no one there. I started losing sleep. I'd lie in bed, staring at the clock, watching it tick toward 2:14. My heart would start racing before the knocks even came, and they always came. I mentioned it to my neighbor across the hall, an older woman named Mrs. Chen. "Have you heard anyone knocking on doors late at night?" She looked at me strangely. "No, dear. I sleep through the night." "Why?" "Someone's been knocking on my door, every night at the same time." She frowned. "That's odd. Maybe you should tell the building manager." I did. He said he'd look into it, maybe check the security cameras in the lobby, but he didn't seem particularly concerned. The knocking continued. A week went by, then 2. I started dreading nighttime. I'd sit in my living room, lights on, TV on, anything to distract myself from the inevitable. 2:14 a.m., 3 knocks. Then one night, I decided I'd had enough. I sat by the door at 2 a.m., phone in hand, ready to record. I had 911 pulled up on my screen, ready to call. At 2:13, I watched the second hand on my phone tick closer. 2:14. The knocks came, but this time, I flung the door open immediately, and I saw him. A man, mid-30s, dark hair, average build. He was standing about 10 feet down the hallway, facing away from me, walking toward the stairwell. "Hey!" I shouted. He didn't turn around. He just kept walking, calm, unhurried. "Hey! Stop!" He pushed open the stairwell door and disappeared. I called 911. The police came, took a statement. They searched the building, the stairwells, the parking garage, no one matching the description. The building manager reviewed the security footage from the lobby. The man hadn't entered or exited through the main entrance, which meant he was either living in the building or had another way in. The police increased patrols around the building. The manager said he'd upgrade the locks on the exterior doors. The knocking stopped. For 3 weeks, nothing. I started sleeping better. I thought maybe whoever it was had been scared off. Then one night, I got a letter. It was slid under my door. A plain white envelope. No name, no address. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a single piece of paper with a handwritten note. "I'm sorry I scared you. I was just checking if you were home." My stomach dropped. Below the message was a list, dates and times. I recognized them immediately. They were the nights I'd been out late, at a friend's house or running errands, the nights I wasn't home. Someone had been tracking my schedule. The last line of the note read, "Next time, don't open the door." I moved out the next day, stayed with a friend, broke my lease, didn't care about the penalty. The police never identified who it was. But here's what I found out later, from a tenant who'd lived in that building before me. 3 years earlier, a woman had been attacked in her apartment on the second floor. The intruder had been knocking on doors late at night, figuring out which apartments had single women living alone. He was never caught. I don't know if it was the same person, but I'll never forget that list of dates. He knew exactly when I was home alone. My name is Marcus, and this happened to me last year in the spring of 2023. I'm 35, divorced, no kids. I live alone in a small house in suburban Ohio. Quiet life, quiet neighborhood.
I've been getting into smart home stuff. Security cameras, smart lights, all that. A buddy of mine gave me an old baby monitor he wasn't using anymore. One of those fancy ones with a camera, night vision, two-way audio. I thought it was a joke at first. "Dude, I don't have a baby," he laughed. "Use it as a security camera. Put it in your living room or whatever. It works great." So I did. I set it up on a shelf in my living room, angled toward the front door. Figured I could check it from my phone when I was out, make sure no one was breaking in. It worked fine for a few weeks. I'd get motion alerts when my cat walked by, check the feed from work occasionally, normal stuff. Then one night I heard something strange. I was in bed around midnight, scrolling through my phone before sleeping. The baby monitor receiver was on my nightstand. I'd been too lazy to turn it off. Static crackled through the speaker, then whispering, faint, barely audible, a voice. I sat up, staring at the monitor. The screen showed the living room, empty, dark except for the glow of the streetlight through the window. The whispering stopped. I turned the volume up. Nothing but static. I convinced myself it was interference. Maybe a neighbor had a similar device on the same frequency, but it happened again the next night, midnight, whispering through the monitor. This time I could almost make out words. Inside. My heart rate spiked. I grabbed the receiver, stared at the screen. The living room was empty. I got up, walked downstairs, checked every room. Nothing. Doors locked, windows secured. I unplugged the monitor and went back to bed. The next day, I looked up the model online. It was an older one, known for picking up signals from other devices. That had to be it. But that night, even though the monitor was unplugged, I heard it again, whispering, faint, coming from downstairs. I grabbed a baseball bat from my closet and crept down the stairs. The living room was dark. I turned on the lights. The monitor was plugged back in. I know I'd unplugged it. I was sure of it, but there it was, plugged into the wall, the little green light glowing. I walked over to it, yanked the plug out, and carried the entire thing to the garage. I threw it in a box and shut the door. That night, I heard nothing. I thought it was over, but 3 days later, I was working from home, sitting at my desk in the spare bedroom I used as an office. My phone buzzed. A notification from the baby monitor app. Motion detected. I stared at my phone. I deleted the app. I was sure I deleted it, but there it was, reinstalled, giving me a notification. I opened the app. The live feed showed my living room, empty. Then I heard it through my phone speaker, whispering, "Can you hear me?" I dropped my phone. It clattered on the desk. I ran to the garage, found the box with the monitor. It was still there, unplugged, lifeless, but the app on my phone was still streaming, still showing my living room. I uninstalled the app, restarted my phone, checked every setting. That night, I heard knocking, not on my door, on the walls. 3 knocks, then silence, then 3 more, moving through the house, starting in the living room, then the kitchen, then the hallway outside my bedroom. I called the police. They came, searched the house, found nothing. I had an electrician check the wiring, a tech guy check my network for hacks. Everything was fine, but the whispering continued every night, through my phone, through my laptop speakers, even through my TV once. I'm here. I moved out 2 months later. Before I left, I did some research on the previous owner of the house. A single father. His baby daughter had died in her sleep. Crib death. He'd sold the house 6 months later. I don't know if that's related, but I'll tell you this. Last week, in my new apartment, my phone buzzed. A notification from an app I didn't recognize. Motion detected. I opened it.
It was a live feed, not of my apartment, of my old house, the living room, empty, dark, and in the corner of the screen, barely visible, was a shape, small, child-sized, sitting on the floor. I deleted the app, factory reset my phone, but I still hear it sometimes, late at night, whispering, "I'm here." My name is Ava. I was 26 when this happened, in the fall of 2021. I just moved into a small studio apartment in Brooklyn. It was cheap, rent-controlled, in an older building, the kind of place where the radiator clanged at night and the walls were thin enough to hear conversations from neighboring units. I worked long hours as a nurse, often getting home late. The building had a locked front entrance, a small lobby, and stairs leading up to 4 floors. My unit was on the 2nd floor, at the end of the hallway. Everything was fine for the first month. I'd come home exhausted, shower, eat, sleep, routine. Then one evening in October, I found a note. It was slid under my door. A small piece of paper, folded in half. I picked it up, unfolded it, written in pencil, shaky handwriting. "I've been waiting for you to be alone." My hands started shaking. I looked at the door, the peephole, the hallway beyond. I called building security. A guy named Tony came up, looked at the note, asked if I'd had any problems with neighbors or ex-boyfriends. I said no exes in the city, no issues with anyone. He said he'd keep an eye out, told me to call the police if it happened again. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I came home from work around 11 p.m., exhausted, barely able to keep my eyes open. Another note was under the door. "You look tired. You should rest." I called the police. 2 officers came, took statements, collected the notes. They asked the same questions. Exes, stalkers, anyone who might have access to the building. Nothing, no leads. They filed a report, told me to be vigilant, change my locks. I had the locks changed the next day. That night, Another note, "New locks won't keep me out." I broke down crying, called my mom, called my best friend. They both told me to stay with them, but I didn't want to leave. This was my place. I wasn't going to be driven out by some creep. I set up my phone to record the hallway, propped it on a shelf by the door, angled at the gap underneath. I stayed up all night, watching the live feed from my bed. At 3:47 a.m., I saw it. A shadow, someone's feet, visible under the door. They stood there for nearly 5 minutes, not moving, just standing. Then I saw a hand, sliding a piece of paper under the door. I jumped out of bed, grabbed my phone, and ran to the door. I looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. I flung the door open and looked both ways. No one. The stairwell door was closed. The elevator wasn't moving. I looked down. The note was there, at my feet. I picked it up with shaking hands. "I saw you watching. Do you see me now?" I slammed the door shut, locked it, and called 911. The police came again, reviewed my phone footage. They saw the same thing I did. Feet, a hand, the note, but they couldn't identify the person. The angle didn't show a face, and the figure was gone before I opened the door. They started staking out the building. Unmarked cars, plainclothes officers in the lobby. The note stopped. For 2 weeks, nothing. I started to feel safe again. Then I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "Hello?" Breathing. Heavy, deliberate. Then a voice. Low, distorted, like it was being filtered through something. "You thought I was gone." I hung up, blocked the number, called the police. They traced it, another burner phone. I moved out a week later, stayed with my mom in New Jersey until I found a new place in a different neighborhood. But here's what makes me sick. A year later, I was going through old emails, deleting junk to free up space. I found an email I didn't remember getting. It was dated 2 days before the first note appeared under my door. The subject line was blank. The sender was a string of random numbers and letters. The body of the email had one sentence: "I know when you're home alone." Attached was a photo. It was me, walking into my apartment building, taken from across the street. The timestamp showed it was taken 3 weeks before the note started. Whoever it was had been watching me long before I ever knew they existed. I reported it to the police. They investigated, but nothing came of it. The person was never caught. And sometimes, late at night, I still get calls from unknown numbers. I never answer them, but when I let them go to voicemail, there's always the same thing, breathing. And then, just before the message ends, a whisper, "I'm still watching." Being home alone is supposed to be a time of comfort,
of privacy, of safety. But for the people in these stories, it became the most terrifying experience of their lives. These are real accounts, real people who were targeted, watched, and terrorized in the one place they should have felt secure. If you take anything away from these stories, let it be this: trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Lock your doors, close your curtains, and don't dismiss the warning signs. The scariest part about these stories isn't what happened, it's what could still be happening. Because in most of these cases, the people responsible were never caught. They're still out there, still watching, still waiting, and they know exactly when you're home alone. Stay safe out there, and remember, just because you can't see them doesn't mean they can't see you. Thanks for watching.